You can see the eye wall starting to form. I think if we switch over to satellite, we can really get a better look of as this eye is starting to kind of form right in here. There it is. It's starting to develop an eye. And as it starts to develop an eye, that means the storm is still intensifying, unfortunately. The water temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico well north of 85 degrees, some spots 87, some spots hitting almost 90 degrees. So we're seeing, with this intensifying storm, a Category 2 status, and it's going to continue to intensify as we go into the overnight hours. Expected by the National Hurricane Center to become a Category 3 hurricane as it works its way further into the Big Bend of Florida into the overnight hours and making landfall sometime early tomorrow morning. So taking a look at the visible satellite, there's that, we're kind of seeing right in here is where we're seeing the eye start to form, the eye wall just starting to get stuff going. We've kind of been monitoring all day how, it's trying to get an eye, and now at about 9 o'clock at night, it's finally starting to get an eye together. So we're definitely keeping an eye on, the fact that it's intensifying, and as we go into the overnight hours, the bigger threat, especially as we move up and down the coast of Florida, is going to be the tornado threat, especially if we look at Alachua County, Marion County, we've got Lake County into Polk County. Taking a look at the radar, kind of putting it in a mode that tells us wind speed and direction. We're not seeing a lot of rotation, maybe a couple water spouts off the coast. We've seen some pictures on social media of some water spouts, but nothing that says rotating winds, but these bright colors are indicative of some pretty strong straight line winds working its way into Port Charlotte, Bradenton, and up into Tampa Bay. So while the areas that were directly impacted by Hurricane Ian are not, out of it, they're certainly not getting the effects they were getting during Hurricane Ian, now with Idalia less than a year later. Again, the big concern with Central Florida is going to be these bands as they come on shore, how much rain is going to be in it, how much rotating storms are going to be in it, and the possibility of a quick spin-up tornado. So if you're going to bed, it's 9 o'clock. Many people are starting to go to bed, 9:15 right now. Make sure to have your smartphone with you, and make sure to keep Do Not Disturb off. So like for me, I at a certain time at night, automatically my phone will switch into Do Not Disturb. Make sure as you go to bed tonight to turn off Do Not Disturb, because if there's a tornado warning for your community, you definitely want to be alerted to that. And of course, we'll have the latest for you here on FSU Weather. So again, Idalia continuing to strengthen. We've got these tornado watches in yellow going through 6 o'clock. And some of you might be saying, a tornado watch, does that mean I have to get into my closet? I would no, but you definitely want to know your plan in case a tornado warning is issued, because again, through 6 a.m. tomorrow, these areas in yellow, and even outside of that, have an enhanced chance of seeing a tornado come together. The conditions are right for a tornado to form somewhere within this area. Again, there's about 15% chance of a strong tornado within a radius of this area. So we want to, not only focus on Idalia and its storm surge being very important, but also if you live near a wooded area, especially up as we start to work its way northwest of Orlando into Alachua County, into Marion County, some tall trees up there. If we're starting again to, Ocala National Forest, that area, that's where we're going to keep an eye on for trees falling down and stuff like that. That's going to be the inland threat. Of course, storm surge still being the main concern along our coastal communities that can see up to feet of water deluge them pretty quickly. Right now, in looking at the Tallahassee radar, we have gotten pretty active with some of the outer bands of Idalia. We'll notice off the coast of St. Mark's is where we're going to start to see our first kind of band of storm work its way. In a couple minutes, maybe we can get the St. Mark's weather system camera pulled up for you. We'll also notice Perry near Lake City. You're also starting to get some of the effects of Idalia, and really we want to pay attention to this Big Bend area as a whole, because that is where we're going to be seeing the landfalling effects of Idalia. So not only do we have the tornado watch for some of our eastern counties such as Lafayette, Suwannee, and Hamilton counties. But we also want to keep in mind that or I should say it'd be Taylor, Lafayette, and Dixie counties are all under tornado watch until 6 a.m. We also want to keep an eye on, remember the center of the storm is still probably 200 miles away from making landfall at this point. If we can put a quick measurement on the radar, just from the center out to Tallahassee is about 217 miles. And so it's time to settle down for a night, start going to bed. But as you're going to bed, it's important to keep weather aware as we go into the evening, because you don't want to be caught off guard when the wind is blowing, the wind is howling. It's going to sound scary, but it'll be okay. We'll get through it. It's just going to be loud, heavy rain, a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder as we go into the overnight hours tonight. So I'm going to send things back over to Aaron. He's going to talk a lot about the anatomy of a hurricane, or actually to Ian, and he's going to talk about how Idalia formed and more about the science of Idalia.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Get over to our graphics here. That's an excellent job, Ryan. So again, Idalia is the big story here, but I'm going to go ahead and take a look over at the overview here. So we do not only just have Idalia out here, we have a whole host of storms out in the Atlantic. We have Idalia, obviously, we have Franklin, and we have a new tropical depression here. If we can get those graphics up, maybe we can take a look at it, but we're having a little bit of technical difficulties right now. As for now, though, again, Idalia is a Category 2 hurricane, 105 miles per hour as per the latest advisory. I want to make note that when you see 105 miles per hour, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's 105 miles per hour across the entire storm. That is only concentrated in that eye wall, which is why we're so focused on where this storm is going to make landfall. And here we go. We've got the wide view here. Again, Tropical Depression 11 seems to be right here. This just formed today. Luckily, this doesn't look like it's going to be impacting any lands, especially not any lands that we're necessarily interested in. We do also have a new form just off the coast of Africa.
So whenever we're done
wave
here,
that just came off
we'll
a few days ago. Right now, the national and a 50% chance in 7 days, which is a new system they had. It used to be only a 5-day thing. But as of now, currently, other than that, we do have our two big main events, which is Franklin and Idalia, obviously. Franklin here was strengthened up to almost a Category 5, was flirting with Category 5 status earlier, but as of now it is a Category 3. It did go through a little bit of an eye wall replacement cycle, which is where we see that eye wall start to contract and then expand out. So the winds do weaken a little bit, but the overall wind field does expand. So it did go through that. Winds dropped down to 125 miles per hour and heading off to the northeast at 12 miles per hour. Pressure's down to 947 millibars. Again, that doesn't look like it's going to be impacting much land. It may skirt Bermuda here in the next few days, but that does look like it's going out to sea. And obviously we do have Idalia, which is what we will look at right now. So currently Idalia, as I was saying, is 105 miles per hour. Pressure's down to 965 millibars now. So again, pressure, the lower that is, the stronger it is. And the higher the wind speeds are, the stronger it is. So it's sort of an inverse relationship there. The movement here is north at 16 miles per hour here. So we're seeing that general north movement. We are expecting it to turn north to northeast here as we get towards the northern Gulf Coast here. It's sort of that timing that's going to depend on who's going to get the worst impacts of the storm here. But the National Hurricane Center does have it strengthening up to, I believe the last update was 115 miles per hour, which would put it at Category 3 status, which is a major hurricane as defined by the National Hurricane Center. So this is the concern here for the Big Bend region. As this storm does begin to track north, we do have some surge concerns here as well. As this winds are circulating around the system, they're going to literally carry the water up the west coast of Florida. We had some concerns here with Tampa Bay, especially with how that bay is shaped geographically. It really catches that water. But thankfully, the surge forecasts that we had did not really materialize. So again, we're going to see that storm move north to northeast and really begin to impact. But as of now, I'm going to pass things off to, no, I'm not going to pass things off. We are going to keep talking. I'm sorry about that. We do have a storm surge warning across the Big Bend region here. So again, that is noting the potential impacts for storm surge here. Now, as we were just talking about with the Tampa Bay area, the Big Bend region is sort of shaped to really catch that water as well. You can see it's literally almost like a bucket. So when the storm comes in, depending on the angle it comes in, it's going to literally push that water into the bay, and that's the big concern here. We saw some estimates up towards 12 to 15 feet of storm surge for areas here. So again, this is a huge concern, and a little bit of a fun fact, this area has never seen a major hurricane, which is Category 3 or higher, ever. So this is sort of an unprecedented event, I'm sorry. So now we're going to pass things off to Priscilla. I am very sorry about that.
No worries. Sorry about that, folks. So, yeah,
What was that about?
the Cedar Key camera. Things are looking very dark. It's going to be a very dark and stormy night, if you will. So now taking a closer look at our visible satellite, we're seeing all that water vapor in the air is absolutely huge, and currently is roughly around South Florida area, but will be moving northward overnight. So we've actually had the NOAA aircraft has been taking a closer look deep into the storm and getting us information. So recently they've tracked wind speeds at 90 miles an hour and surface pressure at, I believe that is 960 millibars. So again, like Ian was saying, there's an inverse relationship there, which is helping to strengthen this storm and keep things moving. And again, we've got tornado watches throughout South Florida, and you can even see that eye form and continue to get bigger as we move through the night. Spaghetti models, again, also pointing that the center of Idalia will continue to strike through the Big Bend and affect Tallahassee almost near directly. So we could be in some very serious trouble overnight and into tomorrow morning. So as we go through the night, again, closer look, there is some variation, but generally, outside of these lines, we will be seeing major effects throughout the entire state and into southern and central Georgia soon as well. Water vapor, again, very intense. This is high-level stuff, but there's lots of it in the air, which is continuing to fuel the storm, as well as those warmer Gulf waters, which are very warm, especially for this time of the year as we go deeper into hurricane season. So we are expecting landfall as a Category 3, which is, we're seeing wind speeds at 115 miles per hour. So this is a very serious storm, and a lot is going to happen. And now Ryan's going to give us a closer look at some prep.
Yeah, we're going to get ready. Hurricane Idalia is coming, whether you're ready for it or not. She's going to be here tonight. So let's talk about the history of Idalia and where it's going right now. Idalia is sitting at Category 2 strength, but earlier today was a Category 1, 74 to 95 miles per hour, 3 to 4 inches of storm, or 3 to 4 feet of storm surge. Now that we're in a Category 2 or moderate damage scenario, 96 to 110 miles per hour. Idalia is sitting on the higher side of that, almost Category 3 hurricane, and 5 to 8 feet of storm surge. As we get into tonight, it will become a Category 3 hurricane or it's expected to become a Category 3 hurricane with 9 to 12 feet of storm surge. So if we're looking at our model house here, we're going to see a lot of coastal flooding, some power outages. Some of these power outages could last weeks, especially in areas that don't have the best power grid. We could be seeing some long-term power outages. So we've still got a couple hours. If you're not quite ready to go for a few days without power, without water, just make sure we're getting everything we need kind of together, ready to go. So when we get into the overnight hours and Idalia is starting to make landfall, we are ready to go. It might become Category 4. It's not expected to, but just in case it gets a little extra water, it might get a little to a weaker side of the Category 4, and then hopefully it does not become a Category 5, which would be absolutely catastrophic. Storm surge-wise, we've got normal sea level, and then we've got kind of more waves with Idalia coming in, and we could have up to 12 feet of storm surge, as we can see. And just trying to get you guys prepared. We've got a couple hours left to go, so pay attention to National Hurricane Center, National Weather Service. Follow them on Twitter. If you're not already, get notifications. Make sure you're ready to go in case you lose power during the storm. Stay aware and listen to emergency alerts. Take refuge if you need to and get away from flood waters. Get as high as you can if you need to. And then after the storm, of course, be careful with generators, electrical equipment, and flood water. And save your phone for emergencies only. Aaron?
That's right. And again, we want to stress that you want to make sure in the event that you are in the eye wall of the storm, you want to make sure you actually kind of treat it as a tornado warning and take shelter. Other thing, too, is if you have any questions about anything going on right now regarding Idalia, please put it in the chat below, and we'll try to answer it as soon as we can. But anyways, here are our current watches and warnings and alerts here. We have a hurricane warning for Tallahassee, much of the Big Bend, all the way down through Sarasota County, I should say Manatee County, throughout this evening. This will go on until further notice as we see Idalia keep continuing on towards the north and the northeast. So here's the GFS model showing those winds kind of coming right over the city of Tallahassee. I will say that over the next several hours, I wouldn't really be seriously looking at these models too much more because there's not much in the way of derivation or deviation from them, and I think we're going to pretty much be seeing the same impacts regardless of which one is right. So again, we want to stress that it's more of a nowcasting kind of phase where we're at now, rather than like looking at models and trying to predict the future, more than 6 hours out. So again, the other thing I want to stress out to you is the flood potential over the next several hours here, or at least across the Forgotten Coast and into the Nature Coast. Tomorrow that increases as we have Idalia continuing to move off to the north and the northeast here. So Tallahassee, Albany, Columbia, and over towards North Carolina has the greatest chance of seeing that, or moderate chance of seeing that flood potential, that flash flood, which is just as dangerous as storm surge. GFS wants to show we're going to kind of be in that bullseye zone here, or that more favorability where we might see the most rainfall out of Idalia as she moves off towards the north and the east. And then the Euro kind of showing the same thing over the next several hours. So active alerts around the Big Bend. We have those storm surge warnings in effect for much of the area here. So St. Mark's, Carabel, if I slip off screen here, also down towards Horseshoe Beach and Cedar Key. So again, we'll stick around with you, and we'll see you in about half an hour or so.